Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to this last session of the conference. I am happy to present to you Mr. Armin Ibrahimovic, who is part of the UNESCO Regional Office for the Maghreb in Morocco. Armin Ibrahimovic is UNESCO's Head of Social and Human Sciences program for the Maghreb region, accompanying its governments and stakeholders to address their social cohesion challenges and the rise of artificial intelligence, while involving youth and fighting discrimination. Born in Montenegro, Armin began his career in journalism and social entrepreneurship before joining UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization in 2016, where he contributed to strengthen partnerships with civil society until his appointment to the UNESCO Office for the Maghreb in February of 2023. Armin holds a master's degree from the Université Libre de Bruxelles in Belgium in political science and international relations. So very glad to host you today for your session, which will be about assessing Morocco's AI readiness. Mr. Armin, yes,
Thank you so
the floor
much.
is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Sundus, and thank you to the amazing Morocco AI team. We loved working with them when we did our consultations in Morocco for the report, and I am very honored to be with you to share a bit of our experience here. Before delving into the subject of the Morocco AI readiness assessment that UNESCO conducted, I will also explain why we did that, and in particular, why UNESCO has been interested in the field of AI and the ethical aspects of AI. I will already try to share my presentation. Sundus, you tell me if you see
yes, please
everything.
Go ahead. Yes, all good, all good. Great.
Exactly.
So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the people that are connected with us. I don't see you, so I don't know how you are reacting, but I'm really happy to do this with you. As you can see, as we have seen, AI has developed and established itself at a lightning speed in several sectors, transforming education, culture, and even the labor market. And we have witnessed indeed a cumulative investment these last few years. In 2021, we've seen an increase, 30 times increase in terms of investment compared to the previous 8 years. And since 2021, as you can see in the graph, we see a sharp upward trajectory in terms of investment, which demonstrates AI across diverse industries. One line in particular has the steepest increase. It's naturally generative AI and natural language processing, especially since 2023. It shows that it outpaced other areas, but some areas such as machine learning and data analysis in purple, AI infrastructure and tools in red, also exhibit steady and robust growth. And as we all know, this was mentioned during the last 2 days, those are the foundational technologies to keep the broader AI ecosystem alive. I will advance. While this investment in AI has surged, and we saw it, it's been accompanied by a notable rise in ethical issues and ethical concerns, despite the industry's attempts to address them, and despite some member states' attempts to regulate it. We see, for instance, a sharp decrease in a variety of ethical concerns in news article from 2021 to 2024, really an upward trajectory. And then, for instance, from 2023 onwards, AI safety and control has emerged as a dominant topic, especially as we enter high-stakes area like healthcare, like autonomous systems, and safety has become now a priority. Bias and fairness have become top concerns too. As we know, despite real progress in AI, even in LLMs, we see that fairness challenges persist, and we still need truly equitable systems. Privacy and data protection, this was also mentioned by several speakers before me, are still growing significantly in terms of issues and concerns, driven also by rising public awareness on the issues and some tighter regulations such as GDPR. We've seen also that societal and cultural impacts in yellow have showed that they gain attention, and that AI has exacerbated some of the inequalities of our society and broader societal dynamics. This growing focus highlights the critical need for the balanced, responsible AI development to address these issues. And as you can see, indeed, the total number of issues tracked has increased by over 300% since 2021. And I haven't mentioned it, but this will be, of course, showcased in the forthcoming UNESCO reports on AI market trends that I invite you to follow. It's not published yet, but it will be normally around the first trimester 2025. So we mentioned the risks. There are many examples. I will not mention them all. You know them. There is, of course, social scoring mechanisms. There are projects which use data in indirect and in illegal ways, such as the Pegasus project. There is discrimination that has been proven in AI hiring tools. They discriminate, for instance, against people with disabilities, against women, which are traditionally excluded for various reasons. And this raises, of course, issues where UNESCO has tried to tackle. UNESCO in 2021, you don't see the number 1 here, but it's there, has decided to adopt the first global normative text on the ethics of AI. As you know, UNESCO, as you may know, UNESCO has a mandate to question itself on big questions of our time. It is the intellectual arm of the United Nations, and 80 experts from around the world have worked tirelessly for a year to identify ethical safeguards, values and principles which could govern AI in the future. This was done in the past, for instance, with the Declaration on the Human Genome in bioethics, where UNESCO's declaration has allowed, for instance, to forbid cloning, human cloning, which is still a practice in place today. So our hope with this recommendation, before the boom of the last few years has taken place, is to try to put ethical safeguards to guide this technology. I will not enter into detail into the contents of the recommendation because I can invite you to read it. But as you can see, it's a comprehensive and ethical framework that encompasses the full spectrum of human rights architecture. We see here some principles such as human oversight, determination, safety and security, fairness, privacy and accountability. And we focus in the recommendation on all stages of the AI system lifecycle. And we know this is crucial because very often bias and discrimination is manifested downstream, as we can see it as users, is the product of already structural inequalities upstream, such as the lack of diversity in the management or the technical teams developing AI technologies. I have mentioned it in past conferences. We know that, for instance, 80% of AI teams worldwide are composed of men, often in their 30s, their 40s, which also excludes viewpoints for women. And most of these teams are based in what we call the global West, as well as China. As you know, 80% of all private investments today in AI come from the USA and China. I will pass this. You can see that we have in the recommendation 9 main areas, such as data policy, gender, culture, with blueprints on how to advance the technology in all of these fields in a holistic fashion. So now we come to the crucial part of the presentation. It is the implementation of the recommendation and how do we ensure that we build AI in a sustainable way in all the countries of the world. We developed a tool called the UNESCO's Readiness Assessment Methodology, or RAM in short, such as the company in Morocco. This method enables us to conduct a 360 degrees diagnosis to be carried out with 182 qualitative and quantitative indicators. It is the most complex tool available today, to date. For instance, some other tools which are out, such as the Oxford Readiness Index, comprises not more than 60 or 70 indicators. We cover with this tool 5 different but very complementary areas: legal and regulation, and at first, second, social and cultural, an often underlooked area, scientific and educational, in fourth, economic, and finally, in fifth position, the technical and infrastructural aspect. The results of these methods, which are presented in the form of country reports, will help us adapt specific action plans and blueprints for national AI strategies, for instance, and will allow countries to strengthen their capacities, whether in human capital, national institutions, policies, regulations, which are essential to meet the challenges that we just discussed. We already have more than 60 countries today which are conducting a readiness assessment on artificial intelligence with our support. The reason why I'm here today to share this with you is that Morocco was the second country in the world to conduct its report, just after Chile, and the first country in Africa and the Arab states. We were very proud of that, and it shows also Morocco's commitment, such as witnessed today as well, to advance AI in a sustainable fashion. We worked. I will advance. We worked with the Ministry of Digital Transition and Reform of the Administration in the country, and we conducted various consultations, including 6 workshops, 2 conferences, and many individual interviews to find out the priorities, to feel the priorities in the country, and to identify indeed the indicators which will allow us to have a solid basis to build a strategy. So I will, to present the results of our report, I will not enter into detail. We have a report of more than 70 pages with a total of 17 recommendations in the various areas I've mentioned. But for the purposes of this presentation, I will share some key findings and recommendations in 4 axes, in talking about strategy, regulation, inclusion, and finally skills. I put the presentation, this part of the presentation, in French for also the French-speaking followers among us, but I will, of course, continue in English. First of all, as you all know, we know that Morocco has adopted a new digital strategy, the Morocco Digital 2030. And although it has an AI component in it, it considers AI as a lever for change, for implementing their policies. We do not see a specific strategy for AI. For instance, the CESE, le Conseil économique, social et environnemental of Morocco, which is one of the leading, I would say, semi-governmental think tanks on the issue, has estimated since 2019 that Morocco should make AI a national priority and should devote resources to it, and especially in view of the fact that production costs, for instance, could be put down. With this in mind, I'm going to focus on 2 elements. I've chosen not to focus on everything for the sake of time. The first one is data. We see that Morocco is an excellent student when it comes to data, especially open data policies. Morocco has ranked 35th among 195 countries in the world in the latest Open Data Index, which was a clear improvement since 2020. And I've spoken with the colleagues responsible of the Morocco Data Platform. I know they plan to really revitalize it and to make it even more accessible. So this will for sure guarantee a little jump in the Open Data Watch ranking. Morocco has had an outspoken stance in favor of open data, which they claim can be used to nourish policies, and it enhances also transparency for citizens and for business, which could make a fair use of data. 3 major provisions have already been introduced in Morocco. The Right of Access to Information Commission, the CDAI, the Law 3113, which provides a legal framework already for open data, and the National Open Data Portal that I mentioned, data.gov.ma. We see that to support this digital transformation in a strategic fashion, we must promote data interoperability, and as well as create, for instance, contextual data warehouses. Why? We know that data is a precious and one of the most precious commodity tools and resources used by artificial intelligence systems, and Morocco could capitalize and enhance its sovereignty on its data, while, for instance, creating national or even regional data warehouses, enhancing the capacities of national data centers, and creating a framework for sharing of all of this data. We also need norms and standards to promote maximum interoperability. Morocco's strategic reinforcement must also involve international cooperation in this area. We know that to harmonize standards, for instance, can help facilitate trade and avoid companies having to adapt to different legislations. If Moroccan products have to be exported, even though we don't want to stifle, for instance, startups and the ecosystems, we would have to align with some of the main markets legislations. But without strengthening the kingdom's regulatory framework, we cannot do it. So I will advance on the next slide about the regulatory reinforcement. We see, for instance, that in terms of cyber laws, which governed the cyberspace and the online space, Morocco has a total of all of the 4 cyber laws required, according to the Global Cyber Law Tracker, which means that it already regulates cyberspace. These include, they're mentioned as laws here, but they include electronic transactions, cybercrime, data protection and confidentiality, as well as consumer protections. But as we have mentioned, AI technologies are so disruptive and evolve so rapidly that we might not take into account all the phenomena in the current frameworks. So we are proposing essentially one mechanism to be adopted in terms of accountability, which is a specific accountability system. Why? We know in the case, for instance, of autonomous cars that can run over a pedestrian, deep fakes that are produced that puts into danger political elections, discriminated recruiting system that I mentioned, but we cannot sometimes determine who is responsible, who is accountable, and how can we enforce the law in these cases. So UNESCO has suggested a specific liability regime in the event of damage applicable to AI. And we have the text to share with the government just in case. Now I will advance really quickly. And you see indeed that in terms of cybersecurity, Morocco is also very well placed. It is the 50th country among 194 countries which show its willingness for sovereignty over cyberspace and for protection of its citizens as well. In Africa, I think it is among the highest rates. Third, we talk about strengthening inclusion and well-being. This is a part that is not often mentioned in AI strategies worldwide, although with health it is. But it is a rising concern among citizens, and we think that focusing on that issue could also help the population be more acceptive of the technology. We already see that in terms of inclusion, Morocco has one of the highest rates in the world in terms of women and girls which have graduated in engineering. We see here 42.2% of women engineers, and this shows a real readiness of Morocco to place themselves more on the field of inclusion. Nevertheless, there is a high gender gap according to the Digital Gap Gender Index in 2023. We see that despite a large number of graduates in Morocco in engineering, for instance, there is a disconnection between the graduates when they finish and in the end the female workers in the sector. There are many historical reasons, but we have recommended in our reports to address these issues and to think about how to make these teams more inclusive, how to see more women researchers and women in AI teams. And this is a problem that is present worldwide. I mentioned it, as 80% of teams today are almost exclusively male, but Morocco could play a leading role, especially with the fact that it already has such a rich base. When it comes to energy, agriculture, and water, AI system could enable Morocco to become more sovereign in these strategic areas. We know that AI can help for greater efficiency and progress. It can also help manage resources, particularly water, given that agriculture in particular is a very hydrophobic sector in Morocco. When it comes to culture and heritage management, which is something that is not often discussed as well, but that is dear to UNESCO and to Morocco, AI can be a means of really optimizing the conservation and preservation of heritage, personalizing our cultural experiences, also in the tourism sector, and supporting scientific research in archaeology, for instance. We could not see any initiative, any national initiative in Morocco during our consultations, and therefore we recommended to establish working groups or to mandate the ministries responsible, such as the Ministry of Culture, to study these questions, develop a real cultural AI vision, as well as to tackle questions related to literary and artistic intellectual property. Finally, the two elements that I have mentioned, I talked about a lot about social issues. We believe that since Morocco has a national development strategy, since many of these issues that I mentioned, such as agriculture, health, inclusion, are priorities of the government, AI could be used with high social impact use cases, to help address these real-world problems. This kind of positioning could not only be a strategic choice for its development, but we also believe that it can open what we called a differentiated innovation and position Morocco among the countries with a high percentage of social case uses, which it can then export also to other countries. So we think that in this way, the country can position themselves and find a particular niche to tackle. Last but not least, skills development. I will start with research and innovation. although AI research is still growing on a moderate scale, we see, according to the OECD data, that the number of AI research publications have risen considerably in the last few years in Morocco, from 89 in 2012 to 1,123 in 2022, which means more than 12 times the amount of publications. This shows really a growing awareness in Morocco on AI questions, a growing interest also among universities and academics, and as well as a growing interest by the public sector. There are several initiatives that we could note in Morocco. I will not mention them here. I invite you to really see the report. We see the Al-Khwarizmi, for instance, program, which was very, very ambitious. But despite several programs that we see in the state, we notice that still public spending on research and development is very, very modest. It is not more than 0.75% of GDP. It is mainly funded by the public sector. So R&D could be, of course, could really help out position the country better, and as well as the startups. As far as training is concerned, because we're talking about skills, the country has put in place a master plan called the National Plan for Accelerating the Transformation of the Ecosystem 2030, which focuses on development of digital skills such as AI, data science, engineering, cybersecurity, and so on. And the government has also announced a project to boost digital skills with the ambition of tripling the number of graduates in the digital ecosystem from 8,000 in 2023 then to 22,500, sorry, by 2027. However, we see that there is currently a big lack of training courses dedicated to the ethics or the anthropology of science, and that is we try to come in. We know that specific courses on ethics can help us make the right choices, take the right course for AI, and also anticipate all the accountability issues that we talked about before. Given also we see here a big quality of mathematics and training in mathematics and exact sciences in Morocco, it would also be possible for Morocco to position itself as a regional or even international hub for AI training with a bit more work. This aim would be twofold. On the one hand, avoid what some colleagues have mentioned, which is the click economy, and on the other, attract investment thanks to the talents that Morocco already has. There are, of course, consequences of AI on the labor market. We've seen studies by McKinsey which mention a 40% risk of disappearance of certain jobs or adaptation to AI. And of course, we will have some undesirable consequences for employment, but this could be anticipated with a more proactive approach by the government. In terms of AI investments, we've seen them globally, and they've been rising, but we also see a significant increase in AI invested in Morocco between 2020 and 2023, although they are moderate when compared to neighboring countries such as Tunisia and Egypt, which are often placed, as you know, higher on the scale of AI adoption than Morocco in Africa. Sectors where we have seen significant investment in Morocco in AI were particularly health, biotechnology, media, marketing, social platforms, as well as IT infrastructure. We also believe that we see here the recommendations, you can see them down, that stimulate public and private partnerships is vital. Almost all of the players which we consulted during our consultations, all of the stakeholders have insisted on building bridges between private and public with the aim of breaking the silo. We've seen some good, let's say, practices, such as the agreement signed recently by the government with Oracle to set up new digital training and certification courses, or the agreement with Orange to set up a cloud academy. In the same vein, we could imagine to broaden the commitment of private players and stakeholders and create, for instance, either a national council, national private sector council on AI, which would include an AI ethics component. This was done, for instance, by UNESCO in Latin America and the Caribbean, where we created the regional Latin American private sector council on AI ethics with companies such as Microsoft and Telefonica. And this experiment has shown us that these big companies, which we usually say often tend to let's say divert from existing legal frameworks or ask for less regulation, have in fact put internal regulation on their own level and committed to address what we talked about, accountability issues, to address the AI ethics issues from A to Z. As you can see on the next page, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. On this page, you will find a number of useful resources, including the full version of the Morocco AI Readiness reports, which, as I mentioned, is 60 pages long with 17 recommendations in French, a summary of the report in Arabic, the Morocco country page on the UNESCO Global AI Ethics and Governance Observatory, where we have shared all of the data that I just mentioned. So all of the 182 indicators, or most of them, you can consult them. The data is available, it's free, it's public, to also help out your own reports or your own consideration for AI in Morocco. And then I also shared the global normative text that I discussed earlier, the recommendation on the ethics of AI in Arabic. And by clicking, you can also access the English or French version. I hope that this presentation was useful. I tried not to enter too much into detail, but I'm open for any questions. And thank you so much for listening to me. Shukran jazilan. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armin Ibrahimovic, for this presentation about Morocco's AI readiness, which shows that it's not only about technological advancements, but also about creating an inclusive, ethical, sustainable atmosphere and framework that benefits everyone. So thank you so much for shedding the light on that. We have some questions from our scientific committee and audience as well that we would like to ask you. So the first question would be based more on your experience. So you have worked with the other countries, and so my question is, based on your experience and your work with these other countries, do you think there are any recommendations among the 17 that you that should be prioritized, especially for Morocco?
Indeed, thank you so much, Sundus, and thank you to the team. We had the experiences. We are conducting the 50 reports, 60 reports currently, and our first experience in Chile in particular has shown how this work was essential. Chile had already a national AI strategy, by the way, and they are well positioned on the AI, on all of the AI indexes and in terms of AI readiness. But after our report, they actually included all of the recommendations and revised their strategy on purpose. This gave them also an idea to think more broadly and to catalyze on this particular momentum that we see in AI interest worldwide, and they decided to host a regional presidential summit on AI in Chile. UNESCO has cooperated in the summit. The summit was convoked by the president of Chile at the time, and it has brought out all of the decision makers from around the continent to have a continental approach to AI and to use AI for their development, to be able to speak with the big players such as Meta, such as OpenAI, etc., to speak with one voice on some of the issues. And they also created what I mentioned, this regional council. As you can see, the recommendations I mentioned, they're specific to Morocco, but at the same time, if you really look at it, most of them could be applied to any country which wants to improve its not only as you said, the inclusive side of AI, but also to approach AI in a not only safe way, but a way that will nourish trust among the population, that will feed trust also in the private sector, that can attract investments, because you know the ecosystem is already ready. That is our true belief. For Morocco, it really depends on the let's say on the actor concerned, because the recommendations we identified, they may concern, for instance, the health sector. And there was one on improving smart health in Morocco. There is one which concerned, as I mentioned, a specific liability regime for AI, because this is a question which is already present. I mentioned the autonomous cars, but we already have AI tools which are used, for instance, all the time. We mentioned them. We have ChatGPT, which is used by all of the students I met. I think there is not one in Morocco who doesn't use AI, and I've seen the statistics. Morocco is one of the heaviest users of ChatGPT in the world compared to its population. So those are for me some of the most obvious, let's say, choices. And having a strategy, of course, this is one of our main recommendations. Having a strategy, having a vision on AI can help boost the sector, because we know the focus on, for instance, reducing the time it takes for AI startups to register themselves in national databases. I've spoken with so many developers which told me about their struggles, and they don't understand how they can improve. By working on that, you don't only have a vision for AI, you have a larger vision. But by having a vision, you allow to invest more in infrastructure, research development, and agriculture. Some of the issues we mentioned, because now we see some let's say some individual initiatives which exist, which are laudable in several ministries, in several governmental agencies, but we don't see this holistic approach for the moment. So I believe we can benefit from that, from this holistic approach. I don't know if this answered your question, but I tried. Yeah.
It does, and I really hope that people in the audience will go and download the report and read it, so that they can use the recommendations. You presented some of the key points, takeaways that we can take, but I believe the report has so many other recommendations that could be taken into consideration to serve as a guiding light for policymakers, for decision makers, educators, stakeholders. I mean, it could benefit everyone. So
and
thank
some
you
of them,
for
just
for giving us more.
Thank you. Some of them indeed could also help Morocco better position itself, not only in the market, but all of these indexes which big private sector companies look at. I mentioned the Oxford AI Readiness Index. Just by having a strategy, for instance, Morocco would go and have 10 places at least or more. But this is not the goal, of course. It's to develop a sustainable vision, as you just mentioned, not only placing ourselves right, on a better,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you, Sundus.
Yes, exactly. And so thank you. Thank you for all your insights. Another question you mentioned that in your report you looked for any information on Morocco and its culture, cultural heritage, history, etc., that we can use in the AI in order to have a more tailored AI to the Moroccan perspective. So I would like you to elaborate more what can be done in this case.
I think that there are some simple examples. You recently seen, I think, that countries such as Saudi Arabia have invested in AI as well to help not only engineers and to help also archaeologists, you know, to find out more information about their cultural wealth, to conduct more thorough studies, to identify patterns. Morocco, I believe, has a we know has a large desertic as well coverage in its country, and we know that with AI tools, with more investment in AI in culture, this will help achieve that. You know, unblock some of the Moroccan history and reinforce even that access further, because Morocco is one of the cultural leading players worldwide. But by having maybe a more tailored cultural approach on AI, this could help. There is also, when we talk about language, you know, conservation and use, we see with these large language models, they tend to favor English or majority languages such as French or Chinese and so forth, whereas Arabic, which is a language so spoken in all of our region, is very, very weak compared to them. And we don't even mention Darija or Amazigh or other dialects that we have in Morocco. So when I was talking about contextualized data, I also meant an approach to reinforce these initiatives, which wants to safeguard and to use these living languages for AI, instance LLMs, or even AI systems. You know, I talked about, I was in Oujda the other day for a symposium on European and African governance of AI in the region of the Oriental, and one of the students, which was working in Marrakesh, told me he wants to develop a tool to help once again agriculturers, you know, to have an AI system which can help them manage their crops. But he said the problem right now is that all of these tools are in other languages. So develop a tool in Darija, you know. So that is also for me a part of these cultural obvious, let's say, entry points that we have in Morocco, which we could, you know, invest more in, or even let's take some of the initiative together, because I know several actors are working on their own sides, developing their own data, whereas by having a more national, coherent approach would really bring down the costs and provide this data to everyone for a more thorough growth in these areas. Yeah. Thank you for the great
definitely.
question.
I love the discussion with you. Thank you, and I love continue the discussion with you about all these questions. But unfortunately, we're running out of time. So I only have one last request for you, which is if you can give us a last word, maybe in French. So un dernier mot pour la communauté de Morocco AI. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez leur dire? Merci.
Non, un dernier mot pour la communauté de Morocco AI. C'est que j'ai découvert en Morocco AI un acteur indispensable dans l'écosystème de l'IA au Maroc. Dès nos premières consultations, dès que je suis venu, j'ai aussi rencontré Mohamed et les autres collègues de Morocco AI. Je sais que aujourd'hui vous avez monté vraiment en disons puissance, en pertinence, et j'espère vraiment que vous allez continuer à vous intéresser à cette question, à mobiliser les jeunes comme vous le faites, les docteurs, à vous intéresser aussi aux questions de l'éthique. Ça, je vous l'encourage à le faire parce que bien que, par exemple, le thème d'aujourd'hui, bien sûr, c'est l'innovation, c'est crucial, mais l'UNESCO, en tout cas, sera toujours à vos côtés si vous avez besoin de nous pour qu'on puisse collaborer sur ces questions. Et encore félicitations pour une excellente conférence, d'excellents speakers et surtout pour votre excellence à vous. Merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous.
Merci,
Thank
Sundus.
you so much for merci. Thank you for this final session. I think we finished on a really good note, and thank you again for presenting this work on this report on Morocco's AI
With
readiness.
pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So please don't stay with us.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. This was the last session of today, but there is also the Morocco AI's hackathon, which will be celebrated, which will have we'll have the ceremony for the winners. So for the audience, please stay with us. And then there will be the closing word for this conference. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you. See you.
Thank you.